Welcome in, everyone. We have a very important topic to talk about today, and that is some further information amid the Tim Kennedy scandal, drama, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to address my two previous interviews with him, things that were said in those interviews, what I knew at the time, what I didn't know at the time, as well as a resurfaced post from, I believe, 2016. We're going to get into it about Tim claiming to have killed women and children in war. This is getting to the point to where it's quite frankly utterly insane. But I want to lay it all out there. I want to explain those two interviews, where I was working when they happened, why they happened, all of that stuff. And I'm just going to be totally straight with all of you. And I know the clips, some of them have gone viral already, thanks to Nate at Valhalla. Love that guy. Totally great video he made. I encourage you all to go watch the video he made. And I'm going to explain kind of the background, the backstory, as well as this unhinged post from Tim about killing women and children in war, why anyone would post that in the fashion he did. And you're going to see the whole thing is utterly insane. Again, it's just crazy. But before we get into all that and much more, please make sure to like and subscribe. Totally free. Costs you guys absolutely nothing. Is a huge boost in the algorithm for the channel. Comment below your thoughts on Tim Kennedy. Do you think he's telling the truth? Do you think he's lying? Do you think it's somewhere in between? I want to hear your guys' thoughts. I'll respond to as many as I can in the comments. And then hit that bell. Make sure you click all notifications are on. You won't miss a video. Now, let's get into it. So as we all know, Tim once again has found himself in a bit of hot water after a video was put on Instagram about whether or not, it goes back to the Bronze Star with V debate. He was asked in an interview about having a Bronze Star with V device, and it was spliced with a video where he claimed he never made that claim, and then he tells a story about shooting a person. And frankly, none of it is surprising. None of it is shocking at this point. I've encouraged him in videos, go public, just address everything. If you lied, let us know. If you exaggerated, let us know. Clear the air. This is a forgiving country. Everyone loves a great comeback story. And I don't think he has any interest in doing that. And as long as he doesn't have any interest in doing that, I think you're going to see people continue to keep the pressure up, whether that's Nate, whether that's the Anti-Hero podcast, which really blew the lid on the Tim Kennedy saga. And we're going to get into my interviews, and I'm going to explain all of that and how I kind of got duped, if you will. And hey, hand up. I didn't know what I was being told was almost certainly not true, but you got to own that. But before we do, look at this little gem. I'll throw this up on the screen for you here. This is from August 31st, 2016. This is a post on Instagram. I doubt Tim even knows this is still up. Doesn't matter if he deletes it because we've got it screenshot and it's now in this video forever. Let's go ahead and read this, specifically the highlighted part, and you tell me if this sounds like what a normal person would say or an absolutely, utterly absurd thing to post on the internet. So here we go. We're going to read this. It says, I'm asked daily about how and why I don't have PTSD. I'm probably the last person on earth you should ask about this stuff. I have killed kids and women during war. I have seen my friends and fellow soldiers burn alive. My adult life is filled with the things horror movies are made of. I could have nightmares every night or be a medicated PTSD victim if I didn't choose every day to make a difference for myself and, more importantly, for the men that died to my left and right. I don't give a fuck how they say we are supposed to heal. I'll tell you how to get better. You stop being a pussy. Guys, I cannot believe this is real. He literally says, I'm asked daily about how and why I don't have PTSD. 2 sentences later, he says, I have killed kids and women during war. I've seen my friends and fellow soldiers burn alive. I'm at a loss for words. I cannot believe, first off, is this true, Tim? Have you killed women and children in war? If so, what were the circumstances of that? What did you do to kill women and children in war? Let's be very specific here. You went here on a post in 2016 talking about killing women and children. I want to know exactly how that happened. We know the grenade story about throwing a grenade and the chaos and carnage that unfolded was more or less debunked in part by Travis Warlock, your old boss. So you go on social media as a famous veteran, as a famous Green Beret, saying you have killed women and children. Then you say, if you don't want to have PTSD, you stop being a pussy. Tim, there are men who have seen things in war for real. For real. Guys who have killed people up close and personal. Guys who have watched teammates get blown up in front of them. Guys who have watched their best friends get shot. And they at times struggle with it. Are they a pussy, Tim? Are the operators who got in a stack and think back to the 2 guys or 3 guys or 4 guys who might have got taken out by an explosion, are those operators pussies, Tim? Because that is something they struggle with. Let's listen to Tim's recipe. You train so hard your hands bleed and you sweat acid. You train so hard you collapse seeing stars. You go get cleaned up, have a healthy meal, look your best, dress nice. Then know about the real work is about to start. Find something bigger than yourself and pour every ounce of who you are into it. If that's your family, be the best father on earth. If you're a cop, firefighter, or trash man, be the best. Know every law, regulation, or route like the back of your hand. Be the best shot on the force. Be in better shape than every officer in the country. And serve the community with it's your reason for living. That's not bad advice, by the way. Hey, no issue with that. The problem with it is it's predicated on something that I'm struggling to believe is real. Because what are the details, Tim? Who were the women you killed? Who were the children you killed? Were there witnesses to this? Did any of your teammates who called you out for lying, can they come forward and say they saw this? I mean, it's absolutely crazy. His answer to guys who might struggle is to, quote, you stop being a pussy. This is a guy who just claimed in the same post he's killed women and children, does not have PTSD, which he's very proud of, as you can tell, and he wants you to stop being a pussy. There's some dudes who've seen shit Tim couldn't imagine. There's some dudes who saw more combat probably in a 48-hour window than Tim did in his 1 tour to Iraq and 1 tour to Afghanistan. Watch some of my old interviews. Listen to some of the stories those men have told about losing teammates, about some of the killing they had to do, what they call the hard years, the heavy lifting years. But just know, Tim Kennedy says, if you ever think about that, if you ever seek help, if you need to speak to someone, all you got to do is stop being a pussy, right? That is such a disgusting way to look at this. It is crazy. And again, I don't believe he killed any women and children. Where's the proof? Can anyone come vouch for that? We know the grenade story. Travis, as far as I know, on the Anti-Hero podcast, unless there's other details out there, said the women and children were cared for. They got immediate medical attention and all that stuff. So that's that post. I can't believe this is real. But now let's take a moment to address my interview moments with Tim Kennedy, and I'll explain the backstory and everything that happened and the information I was told and where I was at the time and what I knew. Let's talk about it. I've interviewed Tim 2 different times. The first time I interviewed Tim was when I was working at a website called The Daily Caller. The Daily Caller is a website, a news website that covers a variety of things. It was founded by 2 guys, Tucker Carlson, Neil Patel. I am close with Tucker and Neil to this day. I worked there for 7 years. I had a great time. I absolutely loved my time there. It was a great way to kind of get your feet in the dirt, in the sand, figure out your path, great freedom to do whatever you wanted. And one of the things we did in 2017 was we came up with an idea of we wanted to start doing an interview series of a variety of different people from a variety of different sphere of worlds. And one of the people we reached out to interview at the time was Tim Kennedy. And at the time in 2017, I didn't really know who Tim Kennedy was. I knew that he was a soldier. I knew he had a social media following. And I'm just going to be honest with you. I did little to no due diligence in that interview. That is just, I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. I was, in 2017, I would have been what? I've been in my mid-20s, and I was really excited about the idea of getting to interview a guy who presented and who I thought could be a war hero, who saw all this combat, all this action, all this crazy stuff. And so we interviewed him in 2017. There are now parts of that interview that I believe to be false. The reason I believe parts of that interview were false and that information was spread to a large audience that was not true is because now, years later, I've interviewed Delta Force, SEAL Team 6, other Green Berets, Marine Special Operations. You name it, we can find someone in that branch from that field. And I've learned more. There's two parts of that interview that I'm going to play for you now, and just for complete disclosure, and I want to address them because I do not think they are real. Number one, Tim tells a story about how at times they were surrounded by 500 Taliban fighters at a time, believing death was imminent. And at another time, he talks about how he has 12 passports full from all his deployments and everything he's done. And let's watch the videos, and then we'll get into it. Roll the tape.
You know, this is the first gunfight I'm ever in, and I'm doing the same thing that all these guys next to me are doing. I guess I'm going to be okay. But then there are other times where, you know, we're surrounded on all sides. There's about 30 of us, and there's 400 or 500 Taliban, and they all have elevated positions, and we're all pretty sure we're going to die. You know, there's no amount of training that's going to prepare you for the realization that there's a very slim chance that you're going to see tomorrow.
Correct to Afghanistan.
I've been deployed. You name it, I've been there. I think I have 12 passports that are full. 12 like entirely full passports. Like there's no more place to put stamps. You know. So, you know, I have Iraq, Afghanistan, of course, North Africa, South America, Europe. Yeah.
First, in order to bring a little lightheartedness to this, yes, I recognize I was way chubbier back in the day. I did get in better shape from what I was in my 20s when I was working at the caller. That life, the media life will get you if you're not watching your food or whatever. But I now believe those video clips to either be flat out incorrect or misrepresentations of the facts. What do I mean by that? I cannot find evidence, and I can't find a witness, and I can't find news articles of 500 Taliban fighters ambushing a surrounded and cut off group of Americans. When it comes to his deployment stories, let's set the record straight on that too. Tim did 2 combat deployments. He did 1 to Iraq, 1 to Afghanistan. 2. Not 12, 20, whatever it might be. 2. Now, he has been to other places, certainly. There's a difference between going to Iraq to fight in the Iraq War and going to Africa or South America, wherever it might be. That, graciously, is a misrepresentation of what he said. And this goes back to the other video that is now going viral, and I'll drop that in right now, where he talks about the countless deployments. And this is the video that really has got Tim back in the news, sparked up a lot. And let's go ahead and play that video right now.
I've never said anything about having a Purple Heart or a Bronze Star with a V device.
You sure about that?
Per the source I have here, you have a Bronze Star with a V. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Do you mind telling us about what happened there and how you got that?
Oh, pretty straightforward. I think so. There was a bad guy, and bad guy was shooting at us, and I shot him.
So that right there obviously is the video that's gone mega viral since all of this started and kind of kicked this topic back up. So now the second time I interviewed Tim in 2021. I was still working at the caller. And please, guys, and I'm going to talk about this after I show this clip, this has nothing to do with the Daily Caller. This has very little even to do with me. This is about Tim. This is about things Tim has said. So let's get that crystal clear. In this video clip, it is after the fall of Afghanistan, which we all know Tim was over there for, taking photos, getting some good Instagram content. Unclear to me if anyone in the military was really appreciative of what was going on when people flooded in. That's a subject for another time. I believe that the Anti-Hero podcast even has a interview called, I think, The Collapse of Afghanistan, where they go over kind of the feelings toward that, and you can hear other people talk about it as well. In this story, Tim talks about dead babies and wires and the Constantino wire and throwing babies and all this stuff. All of this horrifically evil stuff. And I want you guys to watch this clip, and then I'm going to get into it right after that.
25 days ago at the Abbey Gate in Kabul on the airbase of HKIA, we watched women take their infant children and chuck them over their head as far and as high as they could in the hope that they would not just clear the first thing of concertina wire or the wall or the second thing of concertina wire, but they might be caught by one American. The risk of doing that was better for that child than anything else that would have happened on the other side of that concertina wire. Think about that for a second. There was a 1 in 100 chance that that mom could clear the baby over the concertina wire, and a whole bunch of them didn't. They fell on the wire and they bled out. That was still a better option than everything that they had in Afghanistan. That is the extraordinary thing about this country and what everybody else understands. If you look at the Del Rio.
So right there, you just saw Tim say in my interview with him in 2021 that babies were thrown into wires and bled to death, the ones who couldn't clear the wire, and he said 1 in 100 chance. Here's the problem with that story. And I'm not going to say that that story is flat out false. I have struggled and I've spent significant time looking for sources that back up there were a bunch of dead babies that bled out in the wire. We know for a fact babies were passed over the wire and rescued by American and British forces. We know that. There's no debate about that. But what we have to believe, if this story is true, and if this story is true and Tim has proof, he can give it to me. I will air it here for everyone to see, and you will know beyond a shadow of a doubt that Tim Kennedy, the story you just heard, is 100% true. If he has the proof, he can DM me on Instagram. I will post it here. It'll probably have to be censored. If he has proof of dead babies left in the wire, give it to me. You told me the story on my podcast. You went viral on my podcast. Give me the proof. I will post it here, and I will be the first one to come up with my hand up and say, you know what? There were a bunch of dead babies. Here's why I struggle to believe that story. Here's why I think that story is probably not 100% truthful. To believe that story, you have to believe that American service members and American heroes and young American men and women, 13 of whom died over there, 13 of them who died, watched babies bleed to death in barbed wire and didn't do anything to stop it. You have to think so little of those service members that they would watch a young baby die and not immediately do everything in their power to stop it. Does that sound like the U.S. military to you? Does that sound like the men and women who sign up to protect this country? They're just going to watch babies die in wire? I find that really fucking hard to believe. I find it really hard to believe. I look back at those interviews and I'm embarrassed by both of them. I wish I hadn't done either of them. I didn't know what I know now. I was much younger, hadn't really interviewed. I hadn't interviewed a single Delta Force dude as far as I know. No, definitely not. I had not interviewed a single Delta Force dude or SEAL Team 6 guy at the point either of those interviews happened. Guys with insane combat experience. Guys who had actually looked the enemy in the eye at point blank range and took someone's life, pulling the trigger because that was the job. That was the mission. It's what they had to do. I was in my mid-20s the first time, and I just thought it was really neat to be doing interviews. I thought it was really neat that a guy with a following who had presented himself as this war hero, and maybe now he's like, I never presented myself as a war hero. That's up to interpretation, I guess, then. I look back at those interviews and I just think about myself, what a fucking idiot I was. How could I have not seen at the time? But I was never in the military. I was never in combat. I've never shot another human in my life. So then I started hearing from other people in the know, people who have that experience. And their stories are a lot different. I sent that interview, that second interview, the whole thing, to a former Tier 1 operator who was a Tier 1 operator for more than a decade and has a very significant award. Not one that's up for debate, not one where people are debating what it is, but one that was earned in blood, where he lost multiple teammates that night. And he watched that interview and was less than impressed. Again, not at me. I've had a couple guys reach out to me because I am so embarrassed by those interviews. And I just say, dude, I fucked up. My platform was used to spread information I believed at the time was real and credible that I no longer believe is real and credible. And you know what they all said? They're like, listen, dude, you've never been over there. You've never been in a gunfight. You don't really pick up. You're not going to pick up on some of this more minor details until you've been there. Like, we don't blame you. But with Tim back in the news and with the clips once again going viral, and now those old Daily Caller clips are out there, I wanted to come out and say, I've interviewed him twice. It was foolish in hindsight. It was stupid in hindsight. I shouldn't have done it. If I knew what I knew now, I never would have. Or I would have pressed him way, way, way harder. Way harder. But you live and you learn. And I will tell you this. I take great pride in everyone else I've interviewed in the past 3 or 4 years. Minus one other exception, which I found out later. Everyone I've interviewed in the past 3 or 4 years is the real deal. And I vet them now. I text guys in the unit. I say, hey, you know this guy? Yeah, straight shooter, great guy, legit. Or they'll be like, no, liar, full of shit, was not an operator, was in a support role. And he lies about it. And there's people out there who do that. So at the end of the day, that's the truth behind those interviews. I love my time at the Daily Caller. The Daily Caller was awesome. Tucker's awesome. Neil's awesome. They're all awesome. It's a great company. It's a great website. Don't allow what I did in those interviews to reflect on that. I take full responsibility for not vetting the guests more. It is what it is at this point. And he ought to come on here and fucking apologize to me and to all the viewers. That's what he should do. But he won't. But like I said, Tim, give me the proof. Give me the proof and I'll air it out here for everyone to see. And then I'll be the first person to say I was wrong. We'll see if that proof exists. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Again, cost you guys nothing. Totally free. Huge for me. Hit that bell so you don't miss a single video. All notifications turned on. I hope you guys understand. I've been thinking about talking about this for probably since last Thanksgiving when this really blew up and the anti-hero really blasted them. I've been thinking, should I discuss my interviews with them? Should I explain why they happened? Because I want people to take me seriously. And I feel like I've done a really good job of that in the past few years, getting really good guests. And that's just the truth. You just don't know what you don't know. That's all there is to it. I hope you guys understand. I appreciate the support. I'll catch you all next time.